So before we jump into this week's episode, I just have to ask you a question. How valuable would it be to have direct access to some of my past guests to learn exactly how they executed certain strategies to grow their business? And I believe it would be extremely helpful to your entrepreneurial journey. And as someone who has had access to these founders, I can tell you firsthand, guys, it's super helpful. And I want to make it available to you. In fact, that is the experience and knowledge sharing that's delivered to each person every quarter when they become a Grindology member. Now, Grindology is an entrepreneurial subscription box, and it ships every quarter full of resources to help fuel your grind and your hustle. So what's included in the Grindology shipment? Well, first and foremost, every single Grindology shipment will include a copy of the Grindology Tactical Manual. Every single issue of Grindology will be chock full of real tactics from real business builders, not journalists. And within the pages of the Grindology Tactical Manual, they will be delivering to you the tactics and strategies that you can integrate into your business immediately. How great would it be to receive real Facebook ad strategies from those who are doing it successfully? It would be super helpful. And those are the types of tactics that will be found in each issue of Grindology. And like I said, it's real tactics from real business builders. And in addition to the Grindology Tactical Manual, each shipment delivers 2 bags of uniquely crafted coffee specifically roasted for you, the founder, the hustler, the entrepreneur, the maker, and creator. Each shipment also includes an exclusive mug that speaks to your unique nature that is you, the entrepreneur. Everything about Grindology is about helping to fuel your grind. And in fact, that is exactly why our friends at Design Pickle have partnered with us for our first box. Yep, the homies at Design Pickle are hooking up one lucky subscriber with a full year of unlimited graphic design services. Guys, that is a $12,000 prize. Like I said earlier, everything that we do is to help you with your entrepreneurial journey. So make sure that you visit grindology.com to learn more. Our Q1 box and the chance to win the Design Pickle package valued at close to $12,000 is an exclusive shipment. So make sure that you secure your box today at grindology.com. I'll make sure to include a link to grindology.com in the show notes and within the description of this episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Financially Free Journey podcast, and I'm your host, Courtney Dyer. And today, guys, I have a very amazing guest to introduce you to. She's a former online TV host, and she has had a background in leading dynamic teams, leadership, and sales, and super passionate about helping people really combine their passion into money makers. And so I wanted to introduce Amy. Amy's back east, and so it's bright and early for me, but it's like mid-morning for you, right, Amy?
It is. Honestly, it feels like the afternoon because I've been going since 5 a.m., but it's all the same at this point. And thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to learn more about Give Her Courage, which is your brand that you co-founded, and what you guys do, what you aim to help people achieve. And that's really the goal today. And guys, we were discussing prior to recording is really how do we make that transition from that phenomenal paying 9-to-5 job, and it's almost like golden handcuffs sometimes.
Sure.
You make great money, but you're not necessarily passionate. So how can we find a way to like marry or combine passion with great income? And I know that that's something that a lot of the listeners have asked me, how do I make that? It's great in theory, but how do I tactically make that transition? So Amy, tell us a little bit more about Give Her Courage, because I know that's really kind of what it's founded on, right? So tell the listeners.
Yeah. So the brand is the Courageous brand, and it's an educational and retail company where our mission is to instill entrepreneurial skills, leadership skills, and courage and confidence in the girls of our future. And we have our educational side. So we have the academy, which teaches girls these skills, teaches girls networking skills from a young age. It's for 10 plus. We've written children's books. And then, of course, we have our retail, which we call Wear Your Courage or Wear Your Confidence, so to speak.
Love that. Okay. So starting at 10, that is something that I feel like a lot of people are not having the conversation around. When do we start developing these skills in young women, right? Because you enter into the workforce later, and sometimes it can be intimidating to really be confident in yourself and your skills and your passion and to excel in what you do. And so starting at such a young age, I mean, that's huge. What made you write a children's book?
Yeah, so I think when Kelly and I got started, which we're almost 5 years now in, I was pregnant with my daughter at the time, and Kelly had a daughter who's now just about 7, and both of us have had success corporate building companies, and we knew that what was our success was honestly courage and confidence, and that we learned the entrepreneurial skills, the leadership skills, the skills that we like to call for life. We learned those later. We didn't learn those in school. And we also felt that there was nothing out there for girls and women. So we kind of embarked first on this book we wrote, Just Be You, teaching girls to believe in themselves, celebrate their friends and their own individualities. And from there, the book led to the company. And a lot of what we wanted as our mission was to teach girls and women that when you have courage and confidence in yourself, you can do anything that you want to do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it is the difference maker. And a lot of times that is what you see can hold people back, is that courage to be able to take that leap of faith and the confidence in yourself. And we hear a lot now the term imposter syndrome. And I think that's something that's more prevalent in women, in my opinion. I know men can feel it too, but it's something that you see run rampant with women, especially in their professional lives. And so can you talk to us about how your program really addresses that issue that I think is really widespread?
Yeah. Well, imposter syndrome, the reason I would say it's rampant is a lot to do with social media. What we scroll through and what we see is perfect everything. So if you're a mom, you're a perfect mom, you look perfect, your job is perfect, your house is perfect. For little girls, it's the same thing. They're looking at influencers where everything looks perfect, and we're just getting a snapshot of someone's day. It's marketing, right? And the way that Kelly and I go about it is teaching girls that this is not necessarily that it's a bad thing, because social media is a wonderful tool, right? But that this is a marketing and this is somebody's job. And this is one little piece of their life that we're seeing. And I think the thing with imposter syndrome and why it's so ingrained in girls and women is we have this whole idea that we have to be perfect. We're looking at perfect, we see perfect, and that prevents us from taking risks, that prevents us from trying, that prevents us from allowing ourselves to fail because we think we can't fail. And it kind of perpetuates the whole problem. What we do in the academy is we talk about, number one, taking action, taking imperfect action every day. So if you want to be an actress, just put that phone out, put the camera on, you have the tools, start trying to take, maybe grab a script from Google. Then from there, build upon it. Then maybe get in front of your family and try out the script. Then maybe go on the audition. That is, as long as you're trying in baby steps and you get comfortable with being uncomfortable and screwing up, the more confident and the more courageous you're going to become. So that's kind of how we tackle that issue. And we bring on guests. So we had Jillian Spader on. She's an actress on Walk the Prank from Nickelodeon. And she talks about social media and how, people are, they bully her and they say things to her that, she's the successful girl and people are being mean to her, so that girls can put it in perspective that people are out there, people aren't nice. It doesn't mean that you're not great and that you can't do what you want to do, but that these people, you don't have to allow them to tell you who you are. So tackling that at a young age is super, super important.
When you're the most impressionable, because I know as an adult, we feel it, right? Every day you have to consciously find a way to overcome that and to find your confidence. And so I can only imagine as a young woman, and I actually just had my first daughter. She's only 6 months old right now. And before that, I had 2 boys, and, in your mind, it's like boys are different. And now thinking about her growing up in a time where this imposter syndrome, social media, just seeing people's highlight reels, it really can be something, it's a double-edged sword. It's something that can really help you propel your journey and your success if it's used correctly. But how do we train our minds and ourselves to look for the ways to use it that will help us be successful and not be detrimental? And so I think that's something that I'm excited to learn more about with your program. And just thinking about my own daughter, it's like, yeah, this is something that is needed. This is a market that has to be tapped into. So I'm so excited about your brand and your training that you have. So tell us a little bit more about you. What's your relationship? Because on this show, we talk a lot about financial freedom, hence the name. So what's your relationship with money? How did you grow up with, what was your thoughts around it? Did your family talk about it a lot? Did they teach you? Tell us a little bit about your background there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it so my mom is an entrepreneur and my dad was always in sales. And I think that I was fortunate enough to grow up in an area where people did have money and they did have also, so I did get to learn about how to save, right? How to saving, spending, um, really giving to charity and all the things and ways in how you can utilize money. But what I would say is in my generation, I don't think um, we really went deep on that, especially in school. So I think what's really important too, and this is something I have a daughter and a son that I'm instilling at a young age, especially with the booming world of being an entrepreneur and how to spend money and how to scale businesses and all that stuff, is that teaching your kids from a young age really specifically like their intentions when you get money, right? When you have, so for us in my house with my kids, when my son earns money, some of it goes to, whether it's $20, right? Some of it goes to saving, some he can spend, and some he can invest, and then some he can give back. So there's a couple ways so that he starts to understand, right? Because you always want the rainy day savings fund. We're starting to teach him about how to put something into invest, right? And we're teaching him about how to give back. And then those things, like I feel like the pillars I didn't learn, even though I was in a situation where I was taught well. Now it's more intentional. I think it's just a generational thing. Like we're intentionally teaching our children, this is what you can do with money by doing it this way.
Oh, and you're speaking my language right now. I love when you're like, even if it's $20, because
Yeah.
the fundamentals and the mindset starts so young. And even if you grew up, so it sounds very similar, our backgrounds. You grow up in a professional working home.
Yeah.
You're doing,
Educated.
you're an educated family, but the lack of formal financial education in our country is a joke.
And
And
especially in the traditional educational system. I mean, I went to a great school and I did not learn that. I went to college, I did not learn that.
Oh no, you graduate knowing algebra, right? And learning how to find pi, but you don't know the difference between a debit and a credit card. I mean, that is the truth. And I know a lot of people listening, that's their same experience. And so now we're all on this journey of really retirement has been reinvented into financial freedom. And now it's like, how do I make that transition to becoming financially free with the lack of the formal, education around money? And so talk to us about you have that background in being very successful in a corporate job and leadership management. And I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the episode, it can almost be like golden handcuffs. Can you talk to the listeners about your journey of transitioning to where you are now?
I think one of the biggest things when you're trying to build this dream life or this, as we say, be financially free, which we talk about a lot, is I think people tend to just jump into something when it should be a transitional process and it should be very thought out. And it's what they say, you shouldn't quit your day job. So when you don't actually quit your day job, the golden handcuff, so to speak, and you just start carving out an hour. So for Kelly and I, we just started carving out an hour a day. An hour a day. We would get up at 5 a.m. and we still am, but for different reasons. We would get up at from 5 to 6 and we would start talking out the idea. So the way you can look at it is that what I think happens is people are like, I'm either going to do this or not. I'm not going to take an hour out of my day. They feel like it's wasteful to sit there and write down what they're good at and write down what their values are and write down what they're passionate about and what they love to do. All of these things that are building a brand, building a company, building your dream life are required. And most people don't do all of the things that they need to build a dream life. And that's why it never works out. So they're either diving right in because they've got this great idea that they think that there's a gap in the market. And all of a sudden, you're a year and a half in and you're desperate because you don't have the money and you start making bad decisions because you need the money to put food on your table when it doesn't have to be so extreme. So it's keep your job, start out an hour a day and start writing these down. What story do I have to tell? What do I do in terms of what I'm passionate about? What am I doing where I almost forget to go to the bathroom when I'm so invested? What am I Googling? What am I researching to start figuring out what it is you love to do? What puts a smile on your face? What are my strengths? Writing down my strengths. What are my values? A lot of people forget about what their values are and how they have to align with your dream. And that's why they quit. If you say you want financial freedom and you want flexibility or lifestyle freedom because you have a family, and then you go take a job that you're going to make a ton of money, but you're not seeing your family, you just knocked out one of your values, and that's not going to last.
It's not
Right.
long term.
So
Yeah.
no. So as you build out this plan for yourself, it's an hour a day, right? You can start, and then you can start putting that idea into action, right? So you do your market research. Maybe you're making a prototype of something. Maybe you're networking to see somebody who knows somebody, for hair ties that you want to manufacture, whatever it is. These are steps. And that hour a day that people end up just skipping to build the dream life, that's what the problem is. People are like, I'm all in or I'm not. And then they're making poor decisions, or they don't use that hour because they feel like it's a waste. When in actuality, I can tell you myself, Kelly and I probably spent 2 years before we even started our company with an hour a day, with 7 hours a week. And all of that led to where we are, right? So don't quit your day job and literally take that hour a day to build it. It's not a waste. You will get there. Nobody is an overnight success, which is the other part of the problem, that people are seeing all these companies and these brands on social media. And you're like, wow, they're so successful. That was 10 years in the making. There is nobody who has an overnight success. So it's like this instant gratification that what's this hour going to do for me? It's going to take you a couple of years. That's the brutal truth. You're not even going to turn a profit most likely until year 3, 4, sometimes 5 for people. So it is those people who do make it are slow and steady wins the race.
Oh, I love the way that you laid that out, because it really comes back down to, and I talk about this a lot as well, creating your roadmap. We all know point A, we know where we're at now. We know point B, which is your financial freedom, or it's, transitioning your career into passion, but we don't take the time to create the roadmap and the steps that it takes to get from point A to point B. And it really comes down to smart, actionable goals that are bite-sized, that builds over time. And it's that consistency that really is going to build success. But as you mentioned, with social media and the way that we throw out our highlights, a lot of times it's like, gosh, well, my peer that wants to do this, that's doing the same thing I want to do, she just did it overnight. And the truth is that's not the case.
There's
so much that happened under the surface that you'll never know. You'll never know the sacrifices that person made that you're idolizing. And so you have to be willing to understand what that is and to really benchmark that that's something you're going to have to plan for, right? So planning 100%. For the failures and the growth, because it's going to come along with the journey.
100%.
So I just love that, because I feel like we're vibing right now and I feel it. So, okay, tell us a little bit more about the program and maybe some tips for the listeners on what they can do now to start making that transition. I know we talked about it's an hour a day, creating a roadmap. Is there any other tips or tricks that are actionable for the listeners?
It's the roadmap, but it's doing the work before you're off to the races. So in that hour a day, it's mapping out it's pre-planning what you're going to do. I think a lot of people, when they're extremely busy, listen, I have 2 children, I have a husband, I got 2 companies. Like, you can easily just skip that hour a day, because who wants to get up at 4:45 a.m. to add it in? But if you pre-plan, so if you're like, listen, this is how I'm going to spend my hour a day for this month. And that might be working on my strengths, knowing, telling my story, knowing what my values are, trying to figure out what it is, and knowing what I'm passionate about. Once you get going, it's going to help you get to each step. So take that roadmap and literally list out how you're going to spend the hour for a month, and then how you're going to transition to the next month, and how you're going to transition to the next month, because the more you pre-plan, the more likely you're going to do it. Other thing is, people get overwhelmed, right? So your day is super busy. You've got a lot going on. If you are to add in an extra hour, and that means it's going to require work on your part, then if you don't know what you're going to use that hour for, and it feels all overwhelming, you're going to skip it. You're just going to skip it. So if you have that action plan laid out on how you're spending it, you'll stick with it, and you'll build momentum to get moving.
Well, it's being efficient with your time, right? Being a busy person yourself, having multiple companies and kids. If you're going to take an hour to do something, pre-planning it and being the most efficient you absolutely can with that hour, you're going to see success sooner than saying, well, I got up from 6 to 7 and I worked on it, but what specifically are you doing to work on it? And so I think that's a great way for the listeners listen to this is to build on. It's the roadmap, but it's also being efficient and it's pre-planning ahead of time. And it's not even just for the next day. It's the next week, it's the next month. And how are these bite-sized moments going to build over time? And it seems like that's what really led to a lot of your success.
Definitely.
So, okay, any other advice? What would you like to leave the listeners with? What's the top piece of information? If they can only remember one thing from this episode, what do you want them to take away?
I think the thing that everyone needs to take away, we were just talking about this earlier on an episode. Kelly and I are working on a gap year program for juniors and seniors going to college. And we're working on this entrepreneurial course that we're putting in public schools for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And overall, what the Courageous Brand stands for and what we do is that I think COVID has, on a positive note, really had us taken a time to look at what we're doing. And I think a lot of habits are going to be broken that needed to be broken. And we're going to see, listen, you want to build that dream business. We can see that a lot more can be done on Zoom. A lot more can be done virtually. You can, as we come back into real world, we'll say you can hybrid a lot of that. That's going to save you time on a commute because there's probably going to be days that you're going to be allowed to just be in your office at home, right? There is kids who didn't go to college, they stayed back, as I'm saying, because we were talking about this today. They weren't, why spend $50,000 a year on school if you aren't quite ready to go and you don't know what you want to do, and invest in a class or a course or a skill that you are interested in and give yourself time to breathe. So if you want to become financially free, if you want to build that dream life, COVID has taught us that this is the time to take a look at your habits, step back, and break the habits so you can create the life you want. Look at what you're doing because you are the only person who's in the way of you achieving your goal. Nobody else is 100% you. I did everything. Nobody gave me anything to be where I am today. I did it all myself. And I was the only person who got in my way before I led to doing what I was doing. So take a look at what you're doing from a habit standpoint that you need to break so that you can go live your dream life.
Well, and that's a hard step, right? That's so easy for us to say, but a lot of times we don't want to take a look in the mirror and say, I am the reason why I'm not progressing and I'm not taking action on these things that I keep saying it's like when you want to get healthy, right? And every day you're like, I'm going to exercise, but you don't actually take the step, but you keep thinking about it over and over. You're the only person not getting up and moving and doing what you're thinking about. And it's the same with transitioning into a passion and building financial freedom. And so it's those bite-sized steps, it's mapping out the journey and also investing in yourself, because a lot of people, I think, underestimate the value of tapping into experts who have already been there, who have already done what you're seeking to do. So really, if you can eliminate some of those hurdles that they already experienced, then that's amazing. So with that being said, where can people find your course that you guys teach? And also I'd love to know, and I'd like to link it in the show notes as well, where people can find the book that you guys wrote.
Yeah. So first you can follow us at Give Her Courage and you'll be able to see any of our IGTV series for free. We do a dream incubator. We talk about building your dream life. We have a podcast, Courageous Conversations. If you go to givehercourage.com, you'll find you can link to our Courageous Conversations podcast, talking about all the things we talked about here and the gap year and the academy program we have, our clothing and our retail. So givehercourage.com, our book is there as well. And at Give Her Courage to follow along the journey.
Okay, Amy. And guys, I have to tell you, I told Amy before we started recording that it was 2 a.m. and I was scrolling through with my headphones on. Everybody was asleep. And I was watching and listening to the Dream Incubator series. And it's an amazing conversation. It is so worth going and watching that. So go check out their website, givehercourage.com. It'll link to all the social media, to the book, to the clothes are so cute as well. So I was already looking and trying to figure out what I'm going to get. So guys, make sure you go check it out. And Amy, thank you so much for coming on this morning. I really appreciate it. And I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys, make sure that you tune in again next week, and you know where to find us on Instagram. It's at Financially Free Journey, where I post daily tips and motivation to help you on your financially free journey. Until next time.